welcome back to another episode of the Third Channel, Home of Horror. I'm your host, Brian Emmenheiser, along with my good friend, Dave Brown. On this episode, we have not one, but two very special guests. Our first guest appeared on one of our very first episodes when he was in the process of releasing a graphic novel entitled Jason Rises. He's here today to talk about his latest project, another graphic novel, Ripped to Shreds. Please welcome Scott Allen Gregory. Our next guest is a very good friend of the show and can be currently seen in the latest slasher movie to rejuvenate the genre in a violent nature. Everyone's favorite, not the final girl, Miss Lauren Marie Taylor. How is everyone this morning?
Morning.
Good morning, everybody. I'm still eating breakfast, so I got to put up with my crunching in the background.
That's all right. That's all right.
Good.
Scott, how are you?
I'm good. Too early for breakfast for me.
Yes, and you're going
I'm
on
still
like
shaking it off.
2 hour sleep. This guy's a party animal up to 4 o'clock in the morning.
Partying, yeah.
All right, Dave, you want to go start with the questions?
Yeah. So, Scott, before we talk about Ripped to Shreds, and I don't know if it's a sore subject because we haven't really touched base since we've had you on. But can you tell our viewers what happened with Jason Rises, or do you want to not go into that?
You know, it's so not a sore subject because it led to so many awesome connections and new friendships, and it's probably been the most I don't know the right word, but blossoming period in my creative life. But what happened is Warner Brothers did the Banhammer, and it's really interesting because of all of the other Friday the 13th fan projects that were funding at the time and are continuing to fund on crowdsourcing platforms that have never been touched or knocked aside, and they're raising a lot more than I was even getting close to. And I think it was just a timing issue because right about when my campaign would have been ending and it would have been peaking and getting to the most momentum is when they were planning to announce the Crystal Lake series, which they announced on Halloween, which is right about when my campaign was going to. So maybe they thought it was some kind of conflict, as if anybody even knew I existed. But that's the only thought I could have. I never got any answers. I was just told that the intellectual property director at Warner Brothers had no intention of letting the campaign proceed, and it was shut down.
Well, that was what was disappointing because I was a huge advocate for it, and there's a lot of people out there that wanted it, and it was so deflating when we heard it happen. And me and Brian had the conversations like, how the hell can these other things be produced and creating money, and you're doing this little book in a sense, and then all of a sudden it's like somebody popped the balloon. It's just very bizarre to me. I thought about it for a long time, and but you know what? Like you said, it opened up other doors because I remember you talking about this. It wasn't Ripped to Shreds, but you said you were researching and you were looking for old horror slashers, scripts and such that were on the back burner or never got used. Or my memory on that, wasn't that part of the conversation we originally had?
It had just begun germinating when we were talking about this. In fact, you helped me place sort of the time frame because I wasn't sure if it was after Jason Rises had been shuttered that I started pursuing this, but you reminded me no, there was some crossover there. But it goes back to me watching Girls Night Out, the special features. In the commentary with Justin Kurzweil and Amanda Reyes, they were talking about how in the early 80s, between 80 and 82, that there had been 145 horror productions announced in the trades, like Variety and Box Office magazines, that were in production. And then the drive-ins across America started shutting down, and financiers were pulling their funding. So out of those 140, only 45 actually got made. And I literally gasped, paused the movie and rewound it and listened again. I'm like, so that means that my sadness that there's only a finite number of 80s horror movies, that there were potentially hundreds more that were in the production pipeline that got abandoned that we never got to see. And I was like, I want to find the best of those and turn them into period accurate, high quality graphic novels so that fans of the era could see what might have been. And it really kicked off then. And I wrote Justin Kurzweil, I wrote Amanda Reyes, and just started researching the trades and tried to find a project. It took me over a year to find something that where I could line all the stars up with getting the licensing for the scripts and for the script and it being a good script, et cetera, et cetera. I think I over answered your question. That's me. Hi.
No. I mean, I instigated that because I remember the conversation. I remember like it was yesterday because you were our first interview, and I thought it was a really cool topic that, you know, there's all these hidden gems that, you know, nobody tapped into, and you sounded like you were a detective. You were going to do the research. You were going to do, you know, the work to find them, and now here we are. You know.
Yeah.
So when you were saying that there's 145 films that were, you know, written or there was in a process, Lauren, after Friday Part 2, did you ever go on any interviews for any horror movies, or was really that was it?
I mean, I'm thinking I auditioned for Prom Night.
Oh,
Yeah. But
okay.
then fast forward, I wound up dubbing Screams for
Oh,
Prom Night.
nice. Really?
So
Oh,
it
that's
was
cool.
kind of weird. Yeah. And then I was involved with Neighbors,
Mhm.
you know, the following spring after doing Friday. And in between that, I was just doing mostly TV commercials and
Okay.
auditioning for TV projects because that was my trajectory with my management team that was the goal. I'm sorry, my dog is like right outside the door, like um, um, so the next one that I did audition for after doing Neighbors was Girls Night Out. Yeah. And then
Okay.
after that, nothing because I was on the soap opera under contract
Right.
for 12
Yeah,
years.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so Scott, I added another question to my next question. Now I know it was a kick in the guts when you got that cease and desist. Did you frame that edit by any chance?
It was just an email,
Oh,
and
okay.
it was very hurt, very terse. I replied with kindness and said, what did I do wrong that these other campaigns haven't done, or what did I miss, and like what can I change?" And he was just like, "Nope, not happening, dude."
Well, you
Wow.
must have done something right per se,
Right.
because look at it, like you said, all these other fan films that make buco bucks in funding,
Not
but they
me.
picked on,
Not me.
but they picked on a little guy. Not saying you're little, but you know, you just have a small little avenue. You know, when all these other fan films are making up to $300,000.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
know,
and I honestly, and I didn't even expect to crack 2 or 3 thousand. Like it was just this thing that I did. I started working on it during COVID, and I just wanted to do something. I had watched Never Hike Alone. I was like, well, why not make a fan book?
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm not really doing anything, and then of course I really threw myself into it and worked with a fantastic artist. And I really never expected it to just be something like a little calling card. Some of my friends would back it, and when it got to me, like you say, it's small potatoes, yes, but to me it was huge.
Right. Oh yeah, yeah. And I didn't mean like any offense by that, but
none
with
taken
with
whatsoever.
with the success of what you did raise, it just shows you people still love Sackhead Jason.
Yeah.
You know, we all love Sackhead Jason. To me, he's a little scarier than Hockey Mask Jason because he's still human per se.
Yeah.
So when you got that cease and desist, did it make you not want to pursue any other like related projects, like graphic novel wise?
Not at all.
No.
Not even a little bit. No. It just knew that I wasn't going to make any more Friday the 13th fan fiction, at least for the time being. But no, nothing could derail me from that trajectory.
Okay.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. So I'm up because we kind of went off topic there at one point. So Rip the Shreds was written by Michael Johnson, correct?
Yeah.
And then was put on the back burner. Eventually, it never panned out. To your knowledge, was anyone other attached to it as a direct or a direct or a star?
There was a director attached after a few years of development hell. I don't know who the first director might have been when it was scheduled for production in December of 1980. Something I should probably take up with Michael and put in the special features of the book. But I know that in '83, Don Glutt, who is a pretty big director, writer, film historian, he was attached to direct. He seemed very nonchalant and flippant about it in interviews. He was like, "Yeah, it was kind of a cool little movie. It was a little different." He was going to shoot it in 3D, 1983 3D, you know. But it obviously never happened. That's the only person attached to the project that I'm aware of.
Gotcha.
So, I've never heard of the movie until you announced the project, and I tried looking up Michael Johnson online, but I really can't find too much about him. Do you know if
he a unique name?
Yeah. Has he written anything previous or after? And without giving away too much of the plot, could you give us a little synopsis of the book or the script?
He'd written a few scripts on spec, but his main occupation was as an editor of trailers and commercials. He's actually pretty well decorated in the trailer editing field. He's won awards. He edited the Forrest Gump trailer. Got an award for that. Several big features. But he wrote on spec. He's done stage plays. He's working on a novel right now. He's just always been active since the '80s, but sort of on the underside. And then you also asked me about the plot. Yes, a little bit. Okay, no, I can remember things. I can watch me. It's your group of teens. There's an old legend in the area of Shadow Hills that goes back to the '60s, where there's some teen girls that give a hitchhiker, not a hitchhiker. They almost hit a guy going down the road, and they give him a ride. And of course, he's a maniac with a metal claw for a hand. And there's a fiery crash. According to legend, the lone survivor who's been institutionalized for life. And then you have the present day, early 1980s, present day, where the teens are telling the story around fires, and one of the friends is like, "Well, I want to go up to the area and check it out, because now the legend is that the ghosts of the dead girls will go into your car and lead you off of a cliff, and that they're pursued endlessly by the ghost of the killer." And when that group of kids, the guy and his girlfriend, end up going off a cliff and the girl dies, then the remaining friends sort of want to investigate the truth behind this legend, and it goes from there. Lots of slashing.
You basically described about 20 movies from the '80s.
But the thing is that this was written in 1980, so it's very pure. Like it's not an homage. It's not a throwback.
Like there were so many things in the details you were given. Like I thought of this movie, I thought of that movie, I thought of so it's pretty awesome. It's almost like when you like, I know what you did last summer and those things when you were describing it. It's like, I wonder if anybody like maybe came across this script at one time and took something from it, because there's so many other films that you mentioned that I could think of. Like, I wonder, you have to wonder those things sometimes.
It could also be just like a collective consciousness thing, like, just an inevitability.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I do know that the screenwriter, Michael Johnson, had not seen the script for over 35 years. It had just been completely lost.
So the artwork is all going to be black and white, right?
No, full color.
Oh, full color. Oh, okay. So now I don't know if you're going to put a little nod into it, but will Lauren's character have brown panties?
As far as my memory goes,
Lauren, do you just have those laying around?
Listen, can I just say something real quick about the story and what you were mentioning about how all these different movies maybe took from the Rip to Shreds idea or whatever, or everything was poured into it. There's actually a real legend somewhere in the hills of New Jersey that is very similar to that story.
Okay.
Really?
Hold on.
Wait a minute. Wait. We're from New Jersey. I never heard that story.
Maybe it's like North Jersey.
Sorry, I have a 5-month-old puppy in here, and everything he's like grabbing everything.
That's where she got the brown panties from.
He's a brown puppy with brown panties. But yeah, I don't know. It's somewhere. It's like somewhere deep in the hills of New Jersey. There was a mansion, and it's supposed to be haunted, and you're supposed to be able to see the images of these young girls, these women. So it sounds like somebody must have known about that legend.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Full-blown horror. Yeah.
On a side note, I just had a really cool idea, Dave. You know how we make shadow boxes of like Friday the 13th memorabilia, like your Arrow with Kevin Bacon? What if we did a shadow box, a print of Lauren and black or brown panties in that shadow box?
Yeah.
That would be.
No, I'm a stickler for details, and I just couldn't throw them in there. I would need to stretch them out so they're perfect. And they're not just thrown in there. I need a template to mount them to. That is a great idea. I need that.
That would be something we could make we could put them on Etsy and sell them.
Oh my God.
I have signed some pairs of these that people get on eBay. So I have signed a few.
But Lauren, didn't you find a source where you bought them overseas?
Yeah. We had 2 pairs that we got. One pair went AWOL. I'm not sure where Stacy has it somewhere with all of her stuff that she brings to conventions. And then this is the pair that I got that I wrap it in tissue paper with the replica of the ugly sweater. I just came back from a convention, so all my stuff is still piled in one
somewhere out
of my
there.
Office.
There is a fan wearing those brown panties, imitating the scene from Silence of the Lambs with Buffalo Bill in front of the mirror.
You gotta tell Chris Rowan that.
Oh my God! I can't erase that.
For that.
That's a horror movie in itself.
It is. You can't unsee that.
Put the lotion in the basket.
All right, so Scott, so how did this? Walk us through like the idea. How did this come to your plate? Like, did someone come to you, or did you find this script and you're like, oh, I want to bring this into some form of entertainment?
Well, let's say I didn't know what screenplay I was going to do at first, obviously. Now, there was a blog on Justin Kurzweil's Hysteria Continues website that had a breakdown of several of the Lost Slasher announcements and everything that was known about them. And, you'd have the photo of the listing in Variety or in Box Office Magazine, and he just kind of break down. There were a dozen or so, and Rip to Shreds was one of them. And it was from what I had read about it, it was sort of like one of my top 3 that I wanted to track down. Then a friend of Justin's bought or won at auction about a stack of 40 screenplays from a Hollywood estate sale for Charles Bronson's late agent.
Oh, wow.
And buried among those scripts was Rip to Shreds. Now, he happened to know that from the blog on Justin's site that was one of the holy grails, one of the screenplays that it has been long sought after and known about. So he contacted Justin. He's like, hey, I have a copy of this script that you talked about on your site. And so Justin, knowing what I was looking to do from having reached out to him almost a year prior, put me in touch with this collector. And he sent me a scan of the screenplay because first and foremost, I wanted to make sure it was something I could be passionate about and excited about. I wanted this a time capsule of the period. I wanted it to be fun and, quirky, have some great visuals, some good kills. And it really checked all the boxes for me. And then, the next step was, well, I got to find Michael Johnson with nothing to go on other than the name and the era that he was potentially didn't even know if he was working in film. Like, this could have been the only thing he did related to Hollywood at all was write this script. So I had nothing to go on. but I did look on IMDb, first place you go with the name, and there was a Michael Johnson who had edited a horror movie called Monstroid in 79, 80. And I was like, could it be? In the bio, it mentioned that he was a screenwriter, but there was no screenwriting credits. So I was like, so a screenwriter who done some screenwriting on spec, okay. And then it mentioned that he had ran a small commercial production, worked in a small commercial production company called Gas Station Zebra out of Burbank. It's like, okay, that's something to go on. Don't know if it's him, but it's somebody that it's something I can try and track down. So I found a listing in like some Burbank business index for the now shuttered and closed down Gas Station Zebra. Michael Johnson's name was not on there, but there was another name. So I looked up him on Facebook, another common name, by the way. I don't remember exactly what it was commonish, and looked it up on Facebook. You're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling through all these hundreds of people with that name, and I see a profile picture of somebody with a professional, like Hollywood grade camera. I'm like, this guy works in film. Could be him, right? Just a lot of could be's. I messaged him cold on Facebook. Did you work with Gas Station Zebra? And did you work with somebody Michael Johnson? And if so, was he the Michael Johnson who wrote Ripped to Shreds in 1980? And boom, boom, boom. Yes, yes, yes. He reached out to Michael. Michael said he's definitely interested in what I was talking about, doing the script as a graphic novel, and gave me his email. I reached out to Michael, and it just went from there.
That's awesome. So is he retired at this point? Was he doing anything in film anymore, or
he still works in editing? But like I said, he's working on a novel right now. And
that's cool. You must have made his day when you did that, because this is something that never came to be, and now it's like rebirth. That sounds really fun. The research that you did, I love it when I hear things happen like that and come to par. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
It was really exciting. It was
definitely.
Even like this whole story, what you just shared, could be a movie in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, with the two leads in this story, based off of the likeness of Lauren Marie Taylor and Russell Todd from Friday the 13th Part 2, is that something you wanted to do from the beginning, or was it because of your first project, you felt you wanted to incorporate that and not make the last project entirely dead?
I had always, when I first got the idea of adapting an unproduced screenplay. Now, to say unproduced, it also had to be something that was in the production pipeline and got abandoned. Like, that was my criteria, because I'm sure there were thousands of screenplays written in the early 80s, but I wanted something that almost got made. So there's just like this, we all just missed out on seeing this movie.
Right.
But anyway, from that first concept, I wanted to bring in legacy horror actors and have their likenesses in the book. And from having done Jason Rises, I, of course, became good friends with R.G. Henning, author of...
Oh, yeah. We hung out with him last week at Friday the 13th Fest in Blairstown.
Yeah.
We're very close with him. He's a world, the brain.
He's an encyclopedia.
Questions about Part 2. It's this, and you don't even have to, if you just give him an inkling, he just goes on. It's like a story time for kids when you're sitting there and you're like just listening and enthralled, and he loves it, and he's so passionate about it. It's really in the man's DNA with Part 2 and 3. Amazing writer, amazing guy. And he's got a twin brother he brings with him to the shows that dresses up like Sackhead. And like, thank God he does, because that differentiates them between them both.
Well, it's funny you say that, because he's like, man, seeing my brother in costume makes me want to get into the costume. I'm a little jealous. I'm like, you're twins. Just role swap for a little bit.
It was through Ron and through you guys that I, sort of halfway connected with Lauren. You had her, you introduced her to Jason Rises at that little get together, and showed her some of the artwork, and she's super supportive. And literally one of the highlights of that entire period was having her holding the artwork from Jason Rises. And then through Ron, knowing that he knew Russell Todd, my first thing that I wanted to do, I wanted to write a graphic novel sequel to Chopping Mall set in present day, And just knowing, I'm one of these people that like I always go like, okay, what are my resources? Take an inventory of my resources. What can I get creative with? And I'm like, well, I know Ron, and Ron knows Russell, and I want to do horror books, so maybe I could do a shopping mall sequel. So Russell was immediately on board. He's like, that sounds like a really cool idea. He helped point me in the right direction of who I would talk to about licensing, and it just kind of dead ended there. Never heard back from people. I heard back once, and they were gonna pass it up the chain, and then never heard back on that. But it was always in my mind like, okay, I've connected with Russell. He's really cool. So whatever comes next, and if I do get to do an unproduced 80s screenplay, these are the people. Hopefully there'll be roles for Lauren and for Russell, because this is who I want to do something with. And
thanks, crazy cat lady.
Yeah, we got to meet Russell last year at Camp Nomi Bosco, and he was such a nice guy. And I'm looking over his prints of which one to get, and the one that I think we started talking about, it was like a shirt, a topless of him, like of present day. And I'm like, is this like Todd the Bod? Like, he's all,
I guess it is.
Yep.
But he was out of them, so I couldn't get it signed.
I want that one too.
I don't know what his regimen is, but he hasn't aged. I mean, the man's fit as a fiddle. I was like, I was so jealous. And what I had never met him other than that first time at camp. And just like Lauren and just like Bill and just like Ron, so easy to talk to. Like, this guy was just so natural and so organic. And I'm like, wow, you only wish they all could be like that. But, people have different personalities. But I'm like, yep, chalk him up to one of my favorites, in the franchise. Really, really cool guy, really genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the three of us, Bill Randolph played Jeff in part 2, and Russell and I, we're in a chain of texts. So we're always in touch all year round. We're in touch with each other, and it's like I was mentioning earlier. I had a conversation with Bill Randolph yesterday, and Bill Randolph, of course, looks at Russell's, picture, with the chest and the bod and the hot bod. And he goes, geez, how much did you have to pay somebody to edit this for you? Draw the lines on your abs.
Oh my God. So, side note, during the Friday the 13th Fest, I drove, because I live in Brooklyn. I picked up Bill and I picked up Ron on the way. And talk about comic relief, Bill.
Totally.
With Ron, like he's such a ball buster with Ron, and it's like almost like they're brothers, or Bill, or it's like Bill's dad with his dad. Like, come on, Ron, get the costume on. What's taking you so long? It's not a tuxedo.
Listen, you guys, I do a lot of the driving with them also, and we drove to Indianapolis and back, and I did all the driving because, Ron can't drive and I don't trust Bill because he doesn't have a car. So the whole time they're just going at each other. And I'm thinking, it's like, it's like driving with a Las Vegas act.
That's funny because, I was, walking with Ron to get him changed, and I didn't experience that. He was just very, just respectable and like a grandfather to me, but he's a snazzy dresser. He was looking like he was a Abercrombie and Fitch coming off the runway.
Well, it's funny because I've seen two sides of Ron now. He's very straightforward, and like very nice and very proper. But like while we were having breakfast, he was dropping the F-bombs a few times. And I'm like looking at him like, Ron, where's this coming from?
Wow, that's funny. That's
like hearing your teacher swear after you're an adult, and teachers outside of school and they're swearing.
But it's funny. He calls me things like sweetie and honey. And one day, I think it was when we were driving to an event in either New Jersey or Pennsylvania. We were all, again, the three of us all. Oh, no, it was when Ron and I drove to West Virginia, just the two of us, for a thing at the old Majestic there for Friday the 13th last year. And he's calling me sweetie. He's calling me honey. And then finally the car goes silent. And he says, I forgot to ask you, are you one of these people that doesn't like to be called sweetie or honey? Am I offending you? And I'm like, no, you can call me babe. You can call me whatever you want. I'm not,
Just don't call me late for dinner.
So yeah, he's very aware also that a lot of women these days don't like being called babe or honey or sweetie. And I'm like, no, you can call me babe, honey, and sweetie all you want. But again, it was that respectfulness that you talk about, but then he'll never drop the F-bomb in front of me because he is such a respectful, upstanding gentleman, you know.
That's funny. So
Scott, that's another gentleman in the franchise. If another project ever comes to light, have a sit down with him and a conversation with Ron Milkey, because talk about great stories that man has. I mean, just in life experiences, you know. And when I'm with him and Bill and Lauren, I sometimes, you know, I don't always talk about Friday the 13th because I know they do that all day long. And I had this opportunity for an hour and 30 minutes with them in my car. And we were talking about everything from family to religion to politics. And it's just the stories that Ron has is pretty mind blowing. So keep that in mind if you ever do any future projects. The man's is an encyclopedia of film.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Lauren, walk us through the conversation, like when Scott reached out to you to be in this graphic novel.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, and I've been apologizing for this forever. We had a bunch of emails going back and forth, and I was like late, like getting back to you at one point. Had been several days or maybe a week because I was taking care of my very sick mother during that time. So it kind of like, I wasn't sure, you know, what to think about it because my brain was so elsewhere. But then when the initial artwork, you know, the drawings, you were sharing those with me, I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And I couldn't really wrap my head around it. I was like, wait, what are you talking about? Wait, our likeness, you know, Russell? What do you mean? So I didn't really, I couldn't fathom it. So when I saw the initial drawings, I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, this is really cool. And then learning what the story was going to be about, I was like, you got to make this into a movie, you know? So to hear how you came upon this script and just the rabbit hole that you went down it's pretty incredible. And now everything now makes sense to me, that, you know, everything that you said in the emails. Because again, like I said, my brain was so separated during that time that I couldn't really wrap my head around what you were doing. And it's just been awesome. I'm just so honored and floored to be included with this project.
I'm honored. You can't imagine how I feel having you on board. It's otherworldly to me, and I'm so appreciative. I don't have words for it.
Yeah, I can't wait. The Kickstarter campaign starts at the beginning of October. Is that
October 1st?
Yeah. I can't wait for that and sharing all that with everybody.
Just in time for spooky season, which brings us into the next question, Lauren. You've been immortalized in that, and I have one. It was my favorite, of your comic print on top of your yellow car. But you of the car, but you star in a graphic novel. How cool would that be in another form of entertainment?
What do you mean?
You worded it a little bit wrong. So, it's your margaritas kicking in. So basically, what Dave's saying, you already had an introduction with that comic print from a few years ago, but now you are like in a comic book. So, how's it cool to go from film and TV to a comic book? It says, how cool is it to be? How cool is that to be in another form of entertainment?
It's very cool. I mean, the artwork that you're talking about on top of the car, and Aaron, the artist on Instagram, my puppy's passing gas. Sorry, I'm going to go pat down here. Oh, yeah,
we're all over the place.
He's only 5 months old. Anyway,
sure.
So the artwork, he's done several prints that I've shared, on Instagram, of course. That I might make into more prints again because, he gave me permission to do that. So that was always really cool. But then to see an action print, that it's like it's just like this guy here. Here's another one
Oh,
yes.
that's
I
kind
like
of
that.
kooky. But then to see it in storybook form, that's what is just completely different than anything, any image or any drawings or anything that anybody's ever done. You
Right.
know,
Right.
to see it in story form is very cool. It's just different.
Mhm.
A print is a print is a print is a still, whereas a
Right.
story is movement.
Yeah.
And to
Yeah.
see that in what do you call it? I don't want to say cartoon because it's much higher than a cartoon level, but you know what I mean. What?
Oh, is it comic book or graphic novel? Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, graphic novel. To see it in graphic novel form, it's like it just reminds me of when my kids were growing up and they were into the manga and all that stuff,
Mm.
and
Right.
it's like now to be immortalized in that way. It's just something that I never thought would ever happen, and yeah, it's cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, Scott, you are the project director on this. What are your responsibilities and who else is on your team?
Thanks for asking. Because I was just like, you know what? I got to start talking about my awesome artists. So that's a good question. My responsibility was adapting the screenplay to comic book format. So I take every scene and break it down by page, by panel. I'll have an idea of uh, how the action should flow through the page. But I collaborate with my fantastic artist Tiago Mata, who I've worked with since 2020 on various projects, and he'll contribute ideas. The first stage is just loose pencils trying to figure out the layout of every page, and there's 150 pages, so that's the most intensive period because there's so much back and forth. The options are so wide open, and that's when we're figuring out all of the blocking and all of the props and all of the settings and geography, body language, facial expressions. I mean, you've got on a film, it's dozens, if not hundreds of people taking on all these roles. Between in the comic book, it's me and Tiago, and then my colorist, Carla Aguilar, who's been coloring using sampled palettes from actual early 80s horror films. So we're trying to make this as much like the experience of watching an actual 80s slasher as possible, hence the likenesses of the actors. And we even have an original score that accompanies the book. But back to my responsibility. So there was adapting the screenplay and then collaborating with the artists on getting everything just right. And when I talk about props and settings, it's pure research because we're going back and my artist and I both watching 80s horror movies, trying to recreate. Okay, they would have shot that this way, or they would have lit it this way, and houses looked like this back then. Telephones were like this. Coffee makers were like this. Like we're really intensive about the period. And I grew up then, so I've got a lot of my own memories to draw from. It's been so much fun looking up stuff online that was actually in my house when I was growing up. Like, well, we got to have this stuff in the background, Tiago, because I grew up with this stuff in my home, and I guess that's mainly it. It's just kind of steering the project and collaborating with the artists and making sure everything is on point, and obviously working with the talent of Lauren and Russell, and sending them artwork back and forth. And then I also the cover art, working with the few artists that I have on there. I got Colin Murdoch and Mariano Matos and Chris Lair all contributed covers. I can't believe I remember that all off the top of my head. I don't have no notes. It was like, okay, the train's coming. Am I going to be able to? Yeah, I got all those names right. That's been a blast. And building the Kickstarter. I mean, that's a year-long process, as you were talking about, David. Like it's not just it doesn't just come together. You wave a magic wand. I mean, it is a huge labor. And building it, wording it all correctly, trying to craft a journey through reading the Kickstarter, and not have it be boring, but still cover all the bases and try and generate excitement and place the artwork in the right places. And so that was it's still a work in progress. Like it probably will be until we launch on October 1st, and maybe even a little beyond that. yeah, that's been.
There's a bonus now I'm looking forward to because I use it quite a bit. Like with if I decide to do another fan film, I have to say I will be working with AI writing quite a bit because I love it. I'm not an anti-AI guy at all. I've been working with AI art recently for my Pamela project, and it makes life so much easier. And I recommend it to anybody, especially like me. I'm dyslexic. It makes my life so much easier. But I am very, very pro. I mean, to a degree, pro AI products. So.
Oh, I'm a writer first, so I actually really enjoy the process of even if
Right.
it takes me longer, it gets me where I want to go. In such a it's such a joy for me to find the right turn of phrase, and but I can see.
So, can I ask, now that we're on the topic, are you an anti-AI? Do you not like it? Have you worked with it at all, or?
I've played around with AI, especially in the very early days
Right.
when it was just, it really wasn't that well understood and things came out really ugly and weird. And I
Yeah.
like ugly and weird. I'm an artist and a graphic designer, so using it in those early days to generate these odd elements and incorporating it into my own designs was something that I played around with a bit. As far as nowadays. Because I use mood boards when I work with my artists, and I'm happy to find reference of things that are existing and photos of things that are existing. I don't mind AI in a sort of building reference or building mood to
Right.
work off of, but as an end product, not something
Yeah,
I
no, and I agree. I am using it right now for storyboarding, and
Mhm.
it's frightening. It's frightening how pinpoint it is in my mind that it comes out to be in a final image. And I'm like, it's mind blowing. And I guess it's because of the age and being able to use it because, tech savvy people my age don't really exist much. And, and to be able to say, oh my God, I'm working with AI imagery. I can create and design. I'm not that freaking old. I can do it.
I think AI is good for amateurs, but when you're a professional,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like my friend works for Nickelodeon Studios. He's an artist, but I think it was Pixar, one of the animation companies. They're going to try something new and have AR do all their animation, AI.
Yeah.
And, I especially with the actors, the studio's doing AI for whatever background or like no.
Mhm.
It's kind of scary because when I started playing around with it, I'm like, tell me about South Jersey Jason. And it like just went on about my cosplay and stuff. I was like, this is creepy. And then, Dave is doing all these images for Pamela. I'm like, well, let's do a 50s handsome diner guy. I look pretty good. Well, it'd be the grandfather of the character, but
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
waiting, I'm waiting for Dave to put that in Pamela. So we already know it's going live October 1st. What is your goal? Like what is the start off goal for it?
I'm shooting for the initial goal, like the bare minimum to get it done, which would still be me out of pocket by an amount that I will never tell my wife. Is trying trying to raise $7,000, and that'll get me to the finish line. It would
Okay.
be great to make at least double that to kind of make some of my nut back. Triple that would be really comfortable.
Mhm. Well,
And
how much did Jason rise? I know you made pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
was it about
it raised almost
20,000?
it raised almost 20. I was talking to Vincent DeSanti, and he was saying that by the time I get to the end of that, it's probably going to hit 50. But of course, we didn't see if that played out or not. But it was almost a 20 when they slammed the ban hammer.
Well, I personally think you had a great support with Jason Rises. So if the fans are still around, like from that campaign, to
Mhm.
carry over into this one, I don't think you'll have a problem raising that, especially when you have two legacy characters and
Yeah,
their likeness in it. I think that's
yeah.
also going to help it. So what are the different perks, I guess you can say? Like is there a base and then a middle and a high end tier?
Sure, sure. Well, the main ones are there's three editions of the book, three versions. There's a standard trade paperback, 150 pages. it's $25. It's just, if you just want the book, like that's it. They'll have a couple interviews. We're gonna interview, actually. RG Henning is going to interview Lauren and Russell for the book. I've got Justin Kurswell from Mysteria Continues, who interviewed the screenwriter Michael Johnson for the book. So those will be in the standard edition. Then there's going to be like a 250-page deluxe hardcover where we really go in. Because I got all my Blu-rays back here. I love like the Arrow movies and the Vinegar Syndrome and Synapse and Code Red and all these folks that treat these movies like masterpieces, like Criterion collections, where you go into all the meat and potatoes of how it was put together, and you talk to the people involved, and I love seeing all that behind the scenes stuff. So there's got to be others like me who would love to get 100 pages worth of annotations, which I'm calling feature commentary on the book, page by page, with input from my artist and from the screenwriter, most likely from the screenwriter Michael Johnson as well. If he can come up with enough to talk about, he's like, I don't remember a whole lot. But it was cool. He was talking. He had told me, the car that he writes about was the family car. I'm like, stuff like that. That's gold. Like, give me any inspirations as you go through, like that. I can pepper that throughout the commentary. We're going to have a full all the thumbnails of the book from the artist and the pencils, the early pencils. Well, that'll be complete, and in the back there's going to be other concept art, and it'll just be loaded. So that's the 250 page hardback, and that's I think 65. And then we have the awesome 400-page slipcase edition with cover art by Colin Murdoch, who has done some of my Blu-rays back here. It was awesome getting him on board. And that also includes a complete facsimile of the original 1980 screenplay, like scanned directly from
That's cool.
And that one is signed by Michael Johnson, and it'll be in an awesome slipcase. And that one is going to be limited to only 200 copies. And I'm not sure yet. I haven't done all the math on what that will cost.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I think you had that mentioned somewhere, or maybe in one of the posts, like the 3 different variations. But that's the one that piqued my interest, the third one. So because of Jason Rises, I did the one with the slipcase cover and everything. All right, Dave, you can do the next 2, and then I have 2 more questions for Scott and Lauren after this.
I want to go back to your artist. Now, was he the same guy that did Jason Rises? I'm sorry, I don't want to mispronounce his name.
The artist on Ripped to Shreds is Tiago Mata. The artist who was on Jason Rises was Evie Cantata. Evie is still working on Jason Rises. Like, we still plan on putting it out for free online and maybe printing some copies to hand out. So
that's what I wanted to bring up, because I want something from that. I want some artwork, because I'm a huge Sackhead fan, and your artwork was just so phenomenal, bigger than life in some of the images. And I was like, I hope it's not, collecting dust, and that it'll eventually come to light again, because I know Brian would want some of that too. And Ron Gunn as well. I mean, there's so many people out there that want some of that. So I'm glad to hear that it's not completely dead in the water.
Yeah. Evie is he does storyboard art as his main job. So he really understands the cinematics of, shot to shot and panel to panel. He's a very busy dude. And when the campaign crumbled, yes, progress slowed a lot, but pages still come in every now and then, and it will eventually come together. But I can't put a date on it, because I have no idea. Like, we've all moved on to other things, but we still kind of love everyone.
Of course, that was your firstborn, right? So they're always going to be your favorite. Look, I only have one kid, so she's my, but I can't compare that. But being your firstborn in that sense, you don't want to let it go entirely. So that's cool. I'm glad it's not.
Hey, maybe it'll coincide with the 50th anniversary of Friday the 13th Part 2.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah.
When is that? We're looking at
what's that? Another 6 years?
6 years, yeah.
Yeah, 6 years.
Mm.
Yeah. Yep. So, Lauren, you were at a convention this weekend down in Florida, right?
Yeah, I missed you guys.
Yeah. How'd it go? I was following you on Instagram. It didn't really feel horror. Was it horror? Was it pop, or what was it?
It was a lot of pop culture. There were a lot of cosplayers, like anime
I saw that.
type of people. Yeah, so a lot of furries, some Trekkies. Nana Visitor was there, but it
Oh,
was more
nice. Okay,
For
yeah.
the Star Trek, not for Friday. My friend John O'Hurley, who was in Seinfeld, X-Files, all that, but we were on Loving
Yeah.
together. He
Okay.
was there, so we got to catch up and talk about the dog show that he hosts. So it wasn't a very busy horror convention, but everybody was so nice. I mean, St. Augustine is basically the bottom of Atlanta of Georgia. So you have those
Oh, okay.
beautiful accents,
Yeah.
everybody calls you ma'am. And it's just, I
Right.
mean, it was great. Neil, the promoter, he was great. It was nice. It was nice. But like I said, it wasn't, horror fan filled. So I was there with Rye Barrett,
Mhm.
who plays Johnny in A Violent Nature. And, we basically just hung out for the whole weekend and just
Right.
talked with our vendors. The selfie guy was there with all of his Jason masks. And
Does Rye represent himself? He doesn't work with Stacy, does he? No,
no, he
right?
doesn't. He has other representation. Yeah, Dom. Yeah,
Okay.
he
All right.
works with
Cool.
Dom. I'm sure you know who
Yeah,
Dom
because
is.
when we
Yeah.
speak with him, I'm gonna ask him if he would like to come out to NJ HorrorCon next year. Because
Oh,
I told Ryan Scott Weber that we're going to be talking with him in a couple of weeks, and I'll ask him if he's interested for next year. Because you know, there has, to my knowledge, I haven't seen really any in the violent nature now appearing at this convention. So,
it just started. So the one that we did in Florida, in
mhm.
Ancient City, that was his first American convention. Because
Okay,
what's been happening with the announcement of a sequel, the studio has been sending him, not his agent. The
okay,
studio has been requesting him to do, to walk here with the Johnny head on, to walk there.
okay,
So yeah, I mean, IFC and Shutter, they like have different things
yeah,
that
right,
we all do for them. Andrea Pavlovic and Ryan and I do different things. Like they'll set up other interviews,
okay,
with other people, like at like news stations in
hmm,
Oklahoma, things like that. So stuff that Stacy doesn't really, involve
right,
herself with, but the
yeah,
studio
yeah.
does. And
So that brings me up to another question. Do you have to work directly and get permission through Shutter or whoever the case may be to use the violent nature at a table or images or anything like that? Or are you free to be?
I the only image that I use is one that has been all over the place. It's the
Okay.
one that was in Variety or the Hollywood Reporter, one of those. So it's just one image, and it's definitely cut down. I cut it
Right.
down, and I have it somewhere here, but I have the image along with the Friday image. So it's
Mm.
in A Violent Nature with me, looking at her, and then it's me, at the camp, with the red halter on. So I have like a double photo that I
Okay.
just made. These are
Because yeah,
basically
I
new.
wanted to know, because we see you in December, I wanted to get a print from Inviolent Nature from you.
Yeah,
Me
I've
too.
got I have my box. I have several new prints. So,
Cool.
we don't use the In a Violent Nature official logo.
Hmm.
We just use,
Yeah. Okay.
the white lettering. So we don't, but anytime we post or repost anything, we do mention IFC Films and Shutter and Gasfire Films, which is Chris Nash is the director. That's
Right.
his company.
And speaking of which, I'll just take it over from Dave. So, In a Violent Nature is now streaming on Shudder. So it's
Yeah.
going to be hopefully for the ones that didn't get to see it in the theaters, they can see it at home now. And it does come out on DVD actually the day after my birthday, October 22nd. So
Oh yeah.
I'll have a belated birthday gift on the 22nd. So I
Yeah.
just wish they
I,
put it out in 4K. They just released it on Blu-ray and DVD.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a 4K snob. So
I got the more expensive edition. I think it was $30, and it comes with behind the scenes footage and some outtakes, and it comes with a poster. So I'm excited.
did you get off of
Oh,
Amazon?
I did.
That's what I ordered. Yeah.
Yeah, there was two options. There was the standard Blu-ray, which was like, I think, $20.
I got the same one. Yep.
And then the $30 one has all those great extras. And Lauren, I'm going to have you sign that for me in December, if you don't mind.
I don't mind. Listen, Raya actually dragged the gigantic movie poster in a violent nature for me. And I had to drag it all the way back to New York. Luckily, I was bumped up to first class, so I was able to carry this huge tube on the plane with me. And so everybody signed it. And he said, and my son-in-law is a framer. And so I'm going to get him to frame it for me as a Christmas gift. I haven't told him that yet, but I will, because he does all my framing. And he said, well, make sure before he frames it that you sign it. I said, but it's my poster. Why would I sign my own poster? I'm right there. He said, well, if anything happens to you, your husband can sell. I'm like, oh, I didn't say that.
All right. So, Scott, let's fast forward. The book is, successful. Do you plan on doing the convention scene and promoting it too that way?
That would be ideal. Yeah, I'd love to do that. There's a little bit goes around. I'm in South Carolina, so there's some stuff in Greenville, there's some stuff up in North Carolina, Georgia, and Atlanta especially. So I mean,
you gotta get up to Jersey. You gotta get up to New York. This is where
really too. I mean, it's really not that long of a drive. And I toured with a band for a few years and driving cross country. So going up to New York is not.
Yeah, well, me and Brian will put you up. You can stay with us.
Yeah.
Cool.
I got a bachelor pad. Just bring an air mattress if you got one.
Yeah, I've stayed with Brian now. He's a good host. He's got pumpkin spice latte coffee.
That's all I require. That's in my rider.
There you go. So this question I was thinking about, Lauren, as it just came to me. So let's say, because remakes are abundance now, let's say they were to remake Friday the 13th Part 2. Who would you want to play your character if there's like a young actress that you really like?
Oh gosh,
Brian.
What's her name? Is it Ziegler? She was in Spielberg's movie. I think her first name is Rachel Ziegler. She was in West Side Story. She played Maria in West Side Story.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And she's coming to Broadway in Romeo and Juliet. I think she has such a
Rachel Ziegler, yes.
Ziegler,
yes,
yeah.
Yes.
But she has such a sweet face and such a sweet aura about her. I think she would make a good
Yes, she's the new Snow White.
Yeah, and I would love to be in the remake as Crazy Ralph, but a female Crazy Ralph.
I can see it. I could see it. I don't know if that's an insult, but I could see it.
No, I mean, look and in A Violent Nature, I looked like a little bit of a Crazy Ralph, right?
Well, see, your character, I thought was going to be a red herring. I think we might have talked about this before when you were on before. In the back of my mind, I'm like, is she just going to help this, or is she like Johnny's sister or a family member?
Right.
I was waiting for something, but who knows? Maybe in the sequel, maybe your monologue speech was just to throw the girl off, and in the sequel, the opening, you take her back to Johnny.
That would be fun. Yeah.
So Brian, that opens up another question. I don't know if. Lauren, it's as new as yesterday, but they announced that the series that Peacock was going to do for Crystal Lake, Adrian King was supposed to be in that. They announced yesterday that it's actually been rewritten.
Oh wow!
It's not going to be a prequel. And Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. It's based on the first four films.
Yeah, it's going to have the elements. So. Like to me, the article is a little vague.
Yeah,
like they didn't give away much. I mean, it would be basically the original through Part 4. I still wanted to see just something like focus on Pam, like what you're working on, but give us something, anything. Like I really don't care about Jason being in a video game. I don't play Dead by Daylight. I don't play these Looney Tune games with the cartoon Jason. Like they're to me, this whole Jason universe is just like a knockoff of the MCU and DCU. Jason, like that logo's generic. It's their merchandising, which I get. It's like Spaceballs, Spaceballs, air can. Like this is what we're gonna get. Fans really don't want merchandise; they want a film.
Merchandising.
Yeah. So I just, I'm bummed that the original got, but I just hope we get something because it's been since 2009 since we had the last film.
Wow.
I really think after they talked about Crystal Lake series, they said, what, no, Jason, this is not marketing. This is not going to happen. But they were talking about Charlize Theron coming to play Pamela Voorhees as a prequel.
Wow.
Yeah, and that would have been great.
Awesome.
And the fun part is I think she right now is only like 2 years younger than what Betsy Palmer was when she played Mrs.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they looked at her in the movie Monster and said, "Oh yeah, I could see her being a crazy like that."
But also, you think about it, they said one of the reasons it got canceled was the budget. But if you're bringing on someone like Charlize Theron,
oh my God,
that's a lot of your budget
there. Right there. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I just hope we get something. I think, and it stinks because like the younger fans who are like in their 20s, teenagers, they want Jason, they want the gore. They want
gore.
I don't want that. Our generation, we want a story, and
character development.
Yeah. Right.
All right.
That's all I got. Brian, do you have anything else?
No, I asked all my questions. We had a great interview. We're going to give it to you guys. So, Scott, we'll go with you first if you want to plug the Kickstarter page, the social media pages, and then Lauren, if you have any, any upcoming appearances, and by from now until the end of the year.
Okay. Well, the Kickstarter for Rip to Shreds will launch on October 1st. You can find it right now and save the project to get notified on launch. Just look for Rip to Shreds on Kickstarter. There's a pre-launch page on there. Got about 250 followers so far. And our Facebook and Instagram are under apostrophe books. And I was asked what that means, apostrophe books. Well, the apostrophe is the part that didn't get said. So that's kind of, I'm going back and trying to do projects of movies that didn't come out. So stuff that didn't get said. And yeah, that's it for me.
Sweet. Yeah. Looking forward to it, Scott. I mean, when we had you on the first time, the passion that me and Brian heard in your voice and
it's gone now. No, I'm just kidding.
And me coming off my high from his name was Jason, Friday the 13th fan film, and I saw you doing the Sackhead thing, and I was like, a man of my own heart. I mean, he's a brother of Jason's mother, But yeah, I'm glad to see that we can get you back on. With the third channel, we're small but mighty. We have a really great following, and we will put it out there, and I share it wherever and whenever I can. And I wish you all the best with it. And I know you'll succeed with this one. And I'm glad to hear Jason Rises is not dead and that it may come back in some way, shape, or form. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
All right, Lauren.
Oh, me. Oh. Well, I'm doing the Horror Sideshow Market in Edison, New Jersey in December. So we'll be there with a few of our other good friends. And that should be fun right before Christmas. Get your Christmas presents, and I'll have some new stuff from In a Violent Nature also, some new pictures. And I'll be doing the brown panty photo op, including one with the Grinch. So that'll be just got that word. Yeah, just said yes to that one.
Nice.
So that'll be kind of cool. And then obviously In a Violent Nature will be out in DVD and Blu-ray. I have a Christmas movie coming out. He Sees You When You're Sleeping that I did with Dark Temple Motion Pictures.
Okay.
And that's going to be streaming, I believe, around my birthday, November 1st. I think it's coming out. And then that will also be available down the line on DVD.
So
I'm
taking that's a horror movie, not like a Hallmark movie. Okay, not a Hallmark Lifetime.
My lips are sealed. I'm not allowed to give anything away.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
and then my October was kind of, because I had a few requests for some things, but my October is going to be filming in Atlanta, another horror film with again the same people, Charlie Steed and
Hmm.
David Lennox from Great Britain with Dark Temple Motion Pictures, and this time I play a really nasty, nasty rich woman. So it's a very
Ah,
far
Oh, so
removed than
you're
my
like a
usual
socialite.
concerns. Yeah,
Okay.
socialite, a social climber. So it's
Okay.
very different than my usual concerned person or fake concerned person, depending on your
Right.
interpretation
Okay.
of
Nice.
violent nature. So that's and then I have some projects coming up for the new year also.
Good.
Yeah.
Very
with
nice.
all the alumni, Lauren, that I get to talk to and hang out, you sound like you're the most active still in the filming world, and that's I don't know of anyone else with the some of the alumni that I talk to if they're actually doing as much as you are.
After, I mean, there was that video that I posted on Instagram. I think it was yesterday. I was in the top 10 of performances that came out of nowhere that were amazing, and I was ranked number two
Hmm.
out of the top 10.
Who was one? Who beat
Um,
who do we
you
have to
have
take
to
out?
you have to look it up. You have to look it up. I
Okay.
can't have it off the top of my head. If you go to my website, there is a little, you can click on it and it'll
Okay.
show you a list of all the people, including like Luke Wilson's on the list. I mean, this chick who was nominated for an Academy Award for Nebraska Land is on the list. I mean, it's like these incredible actors. So it's like people see stuff like that and it kind of
Yeah.
steamrolls. And,
Yeah.
I'm getting a new theatrical manager. Next week, we're going to start working together and just to sift through things too, because, there's a lot to sift through.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
I have two good directors in the horror community that I'll be working with next year. And
Very
so
nice.
that'll be
Good for
really,
you.
it'll be
Very
cool.
nice.
Yeah.
Makes me happy that you're keeping up with the art and the creativity side of your brain is still going full force because it's I know it's important to me. I'm in the industry where I'm in the creative field as a full-time job still, but my side projects that I do, I have to do it or I feel stagnant. And it's great that I can hear you still the passion, everything that you're doing with it. And that's what makes you one of my favorites because you still have that passion and that spark in your eye when you talk about it.
Yeah,
That's
it's scary. It is scary, and I will say, maybe I mentioned this last time, because, there's so many years in between projects. Last time I was a working actress, I was much younger than I am now. And when I was so afraid to see In a Violent Nature, we went to the premiere in New York on Governor's Island, and it was outside on a huge drive-in style screen.
right.
And I knew when my part was coming by the wardrobe of the lead actress. And I'm sitting there with my husband going, oh God, I'm going to look so old. Oh my God. And I watched it and I went, yeah, that's what I look like. So what? I'm
No.
not getting Botox done. I'm not getting lip injections. That's me. And it was
Hmm.
just, it, it just made me feel so comfortable in
Yeah.
my skin to not have to do that Hollywood injectable thing.
No.
Because, a lot of people do tell you, and, as a woman, I don't know about guys, but they say things like, you should get your eyelids done. You really
Hmm.
need to get your cheeks plumped. You really need to do this. And I'm just like, I'm allergic to so many things. I think I would be one of those people that you read about in the newspaper, like her face blew up.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
in scanners, my head's gonna implode.
I don't think that's so much in the indie film field. I think they like the natural organic look
Yes.
and Bryan, you can agree to this. This is why we are more drawn to A24 horror
Hmm.
or independent horrors because they don't look at those things. They look as not even beside of a great story, a great script. The people that they're using are not your typical Hollywood A-list lookers, and that's what I'm loving about this new genre of horror that's coming out with indie. And I
Yeah.
am turning more to indie than I am going to see these big Hollywood blockbuster movies, but yet they're still in theaters like A24 films. I want more of that. And when In a Violent Nature came out, it gave me a resurgence. I'm like, this, I need more of this, you know?
Yeah, because the one thing, like the Violent Nature, with even though there was no character development because it was POV killer, the people he killed looked like everyday people you see on the street. They're not all, like Lauren said, Botoxed and plumped and everything. That's what I liked, and that's why you can't relate to anyone in these movies anymore, because they don't look like you, and they're just so stereotypical. All
Scott,
right.
what did you get to see In a Violent Nature?
Yes.
Did you love it?
I loved it. Of course I loved it.
He's got to say that. You're putting him on the spot.
No, I'm believe me, and I would have no problem saying I didn't care for it. No, I absolutely loved it. I think it's, and I'm so excited to hear that there is a sequel in development, because I mean, I knew when I was watching it, I'm like, this is a sensation. There's no way that you could not do a sequel. Like, they're not going to let it not have a sequel.
Yeah.
And I love it when something that is that sort of underground passion project, when it catches on like that, and people are loving it, and you hear about it everywhere, and people's complaints are what I liked about it. When you were just talking about, Brian, like, well, there's not a lot of character development. I'm like, and that would be a complaint for me with a lot of movies, but there is a way to pull that off with the right kind of style, where you are along for the ride. And if they take you on a ride with skill and thrills, you can absolutely get away with that. And I think it's the people that have that kind of criticisms, they just want to have something to be critical about. They're not just turning off the brain and going for the ride and seeing how amazingly done it was. Like, it's great. It is scary. It is unsettling. Yeah.
The kills in that film are, like I told Brian, is the way Hollywood needs to take note for a Jason. Like, I want Jason to do what Johnny does, because they're slow and they're painful to watch.
Like Lauren's kill. That was slow in part two.
In part two, yeah. I mean, and that's the other thing too, for the mostly monologue that I did, is it's kind of like goes back to the fact that, you know, again, like you said, the character development. Nature is unforgiving.
Yes.
You know, a bear is not going to say, "Oh, you have 3 dogs and a bunch of cats and 3 kids. I'm not going to scratch your head apart."
Yeah.
No, and that's what the character of Johnny's like. He doesn't care, and because it's his point of view, that's where, if anybody says, "Well, the character development," there's a reason for that, because Johnny doesn't care.
Yeah.
Johnny doesn't care.
Well, speaking of bears, did you see the viral video going around of the?
Oh my God! Yeah,
the cave explorer who went into a bear's den, and the bear came home and was like, "What are you doing in my house?" And the guy played it really cool. The bear is just a big wood puppy, and when the guy got out, the bear's like sniffing his head and everything. But like, he was so lucky. Like, it was like maybe a minute and a half, but the bear was having a good day and just gave him a little wet snoot on the boot, you know.
And now I will tell you, guys know that I live upstate a little bit, so I'm in bear country, and I go trail running, and I have video too. I'll show it to you guys. They're always around. I mean, we have security cameras, and we have a bear going into our garbage. So I'm doing my trail running, and there's a mama bear with her 2 cubs. And my dog's barking. It's like, I saw that bear. And I'll tell you, she looked right at me, and I looked right at her, and I just went like this. I put my arms up, and I just went like that. And she just went on her merry way. But I'm thinking, do I keep going on this run, or do I turn right back and go home?
See, I couldn't do that. Like, I went camping, and this is like right when I discovered where Blairstown was. This is back in 2010. I was up in Sussex County camping, and I'm putting the fire together, and I see a shadow about 30 to 50 feet away, like a black shadow. And I'm thinking it's like a cat or something. Oh, no, it was a mama bear, and she came out of the woods with her 3 cubs. She looked at me. We were eye to eye. I just stood still. she then went running in, the opposite direction. But if she came running towards me with the amount of speed she ran the other way, there was no way I would have made it back
No.
to the cabin. And
Oh
that
my God.
perturbed me from wanting to go hiking in the woods when I saw the bear, because I'm like, I'm not going hiking. I'll hike around the camp and, the streets of the campground, but not the trails. I love nature, but I don't want to be a part of it. All right. So I just have two events that are coming up that I want to promote. Actually, we have three events coming up, the one with Dave. So Saturday, September 28th, which will be the next Saturday, I'm going to be at the NJ HorrorCon Sideshow Market. I'll be there at South Jersey Jason raising money for Special Olympics of New Jersey. Dave and I will be at the same show you will be at in December, representing the Third Channel as our first time coming out as a podcast. And December 13th, I'll be at the Blairstown Diner, so you can do photos with South Jersey Jason Santa Claus.
That's great.
All right, guys. Well, thank you again for coming on. This has been a great interview as always with both of you. Dave,
you.
any final words, Dave?
No, I just want to thank both of you for coming on. Lauren, you're becoming a regular now. And Scott, I wish you all the best, my friend, and we'll keep communicating and plugging you, and we'll make sure this book sees a really great turnout for you.
Well, I just I did the math real quick. If all the 250 followers on his page right now contribute $50, that's $12,500. So let's do it.
Let's go. Let's do it. I can't wait. It's so exciting, and I'm just so glad to be here with you and meet you.
It's to meet you, by the way. Yeah, this is thrilling. Thank you.
Wait, this is not the first time you guys met? You've been communicating, right?
It's just through email and Messenger, and
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All in the Third Channel.
Yeah, you guys are matchmakers. Come on.
All right, Dave.
I don't know that could go either way with us. We've been known to get people split up.
Dave, do you want to take us out?
No, we want to thank everybody who's watching us on the Third Channel. If you don't know who we are or where we are, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube and on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
We are, like I said, few but mighty. Hopefully, Brian, we can get back doing our film reviews like we've done. I want to do we did in Violent Nature, but I want to do some of the new films that are coming out mainstream, which, Nosferatu and all this. So I'm looking forward to seeing some future horror films and reviewing them with you. So
Absolutely.
We want to thank you, and you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. At least getting it done early. You've got a lovely Saturday to enjoy.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.